I personally, as someone who lives in this community, who works in this community, considers myself to be pretty well informed, I learned a lot from the baseline report and the process of going through it. First and foremost, we have 36 general purpose municipalities in Onondaga County. We have a total spending in Onondaga County of about $1.7 billion collectively between the county, the city, and all the towns and the villages. We have 212 independently elected officials in Onondaga County via all those municipalities. We have 189 members of various planning boards in those municipalities. We have 169 members of zoning boards of appeals collectively with all those. All told, more elected and appointed representatives in Onondaga County than the U.S. Congress combined, in a place that has a population of about 450,000 people. That is not to be and should not be taken as a critique of any individual layer of government. It's not, as I said, some people, every layer is doing things well, every layer has opportunity for improvement. The point is that the fragmentation that exists among local government in Onondaga County creates two things. One, it creates the potential for duplication and overlap in service delivery. And we've identified some examples of that. We have some recommendations about some areas where we think we can do a lot better, whether it be with emergency medical services, or whether it be with our water infrastructure. There are ways that we can do things more efficiently and ultimately more effectively. The other thing that it does is it makes it very difficult sometimes to make decisions. And I think if we've taken one lesson away from what other communities have done around modernizing and streamlining government, they have, yes, in some cases found tax savings, but what they have all experienced and what they've all shared with us is more than anything they have gotten, they've been able to make decisions more quickly, they've been able to make smarter decisions, they've been able to make decisions that are in the best interest of the entire community instead of narrowing to municipal jurisdictions or silos, and that has made them a more competitive community as they're trying to attract the same jobs, investment, resources, and people that we're trying to attract here in Syracuse and Central New York.
So as Rob said, slide 9, slide 10 then speaks to the committee structure that I alluded to earlier in the different service areas that those committees took what I would call a deeper dive into. Spent a lot more time in the last few months meeting and working with the people who are actually delivering those services and doing the work, and trying to talk with them and get their ideas for what they see could be improved, what they see working well, what they think isn't working well, etc. I want to say, the baseline, as Rob said, if you're a geek like me, it's a great read on all of that data. But what was the great affirmation was when a village clerk called me who I had made some mistakes in her data, and she called to correct it. And so I had sent it back to her to make sure that I did the corrections correctly. And she called me back and she said, okay, I read the whole thing on villages last night. And, other places are doing things right next door I didn't even know about. I thought, okay, good. That's good. The report's valuable to a lot of us for a lot of different things. So for those who are really interested, I would encourage you to read it. It is, as Rob said, a good read, and you learn a lot. As I said earlier, our partners, one of the goals and things that we started out looking at, and I'll let Rob speak to the other communities on the economic development side especially, but other communities that have gone through this process, and there is by no means an easy way to do it, or a cookie cutter, or a quick fix, or a template out there. If everybody just does this, everything wonderful will happen. That's not how it works. It's a little bit messy, it's hard conversations, it's thinking, it's taking time to think through things and be participants at the table together rather than not, that have seemed to develop great results in a lot of other communities. They not only feel really good about themselves when they have done this sort of peel the onion, look at everything, put it back together, but how they look to the world around them, I think also they would say changed. The numbers change. Louisville's a great example always. They went from, I think, like one of the top 200 cities or something, 138th largest city in the country, overnight to the 32nd largest city in the country. And that the mayor will always tell you that, we all felt better the next opportunities, I think, in what you will see next week that will be, as Rob indicated, from very small shared services. You know, Neil Murphy, who's one of the co-chairs, likes to talk about one of the things we learned as we were going from town to town and village to village. There's a lot of sharing that goes on, particularly among DPWs and schools and towns and villages. There's not one standard agreement or service agreement that everybody can just have on their computer and use. Everybody has to write their own, get it approved, and things just like that, which one of the commissioners asked Neil Murphy for, you know, could we could just get a standard agreement that everybody has and we all use the same thing? Things like that, to really big conversations about change and what we should look like or what we want to look like going into the future for tomorrow.
So, you know, one of the things that we wanted to share with you and that we're going to start doing a little more proactively over the course of the next several weeks is to try sharing some very tangible examples of what this looks like. Because, you know, I understand when you talk about government modernization, it's not immediately obvious exactly what form that takes, right? We're talking about service level recommendations and structural recommendations, and it sounds like it just sounds like a whole lot of stuff. So we've given you 2 case studies in this report. The first is Indianapolis. The second is Louisville. It gives you a flavor for how each of those communities approached it. Each one of them did a little bit different thing. There are really 4 primary examples in the United States over the last 30 to 40 years of places that have done this on a major scale. Indianapolis, Louisville, Jacksonville, and Minneapolis, St. Paul, thank you very much. Portland, Oregon has done some very creative things. They don't quite have a full-scale metropolitan government, so in the traditional sense of the word, but they do have some regional service delivery, and there are other places that have done the same thing. You know, Indianapolis is a really interesting case study because here was a community that had been historically underperforming the national average when it comes to jobs and employment growth. Back in the 1970s, actually undertook a process that they called Unigov. Originally was a combination of a couple of municipalities inside that jurisdiction, and over 40 years has now resulted in the broad-based consolidation of almost all of the municipal governments inside the Indianapolis County jurisdiction, the metropolitan area. Didn't start that way. It started with just a couple, and over time, as that new unit of government was delivering more and more effective service, residents in individual towns, villages, or counties, as they may have been called in Indiana, were choosing to opt into that process because what they could get from that new unit of government was better and more effective and cheaper than what they were getting from their current enterprise. After Unigov, Indianapolis's growth trajectory changed pretty significantly. Maybe as interestingly, one of the questions that always comes up is this just about reducing government spending? And government spending in Indianapolis actually increased more quickly after the shift to metropolitan government. And it did that in large part because of the new economic activity that was generated as a result of having streamlined decision-making, a more modern economic framework, and the ability to make decisions more quickly. So as business grew, the tax base grew, that enabled government and the services that they delivered to grow, and ultimately the satisfaction that people were getting in living in that community also continued to increase as well. Next page.